This behind me here is just a little elementary school abandoned in Herkimer, New York. Welcome zombies. Let's take a look today at some leftovers from ancient, advanced, prosperous human civilizations here in these lands. It's been a while since I've actually been able to sit down and film one of these, and to be honest, I'm excited. And I've been excited. I've been kind of pained that I haven't been able to get around to doing this. Let's just say life's been busy. But yeah, excited to take a look at Herkimer County, New York. Here's a quick view from the blimp. This is the county of Herkimer outlined right here in red, with Herkimer City sitting right there. And I'll zoom this out so we can, as usual, see where we're at. Upstate New York on the east coast of what is called the United States of America. And so here's the city of Herkimer itself, pretty small. And you can see that it's got a river running right alongside it, the Mohawk River. And while we're right here, I may touch on this more in this video, it might be in a later video, but I wanted to draw our attention to this little area right here. Actually, let me type it in, and so I just dropped that pin on it right there, Adirondack Mountains. And it's this kind of dark green circle that we're seeing right here. This whole mountain range is what is deemed the Adirondack Mountains. And I highly recommend that you watch these videos in order. I started everything in Ohio, so if you go to my Ohio playlist, that's a great place to start. Or also just sort by oldest and then start watching from the oldest to the newest, because we're learning as we go here, and I'm not necessarily gonna backtrack and try and recover everything. So hopefully you guys are learning along the way as well. And I've mentioned a little bit, this will be something that'll keep coming up more and more, I think, but that in lots of cases, not all of them, but in lots of cases, mountains, as we call them, are old rock structures and buildings that ancient, prosperous, advanced human civilizations built with better vehicles, with better technologies, and with bigger, better animals. And the whole like, oh no, it's the aliens, or it's some magical, or humans, guys. Like, if you look at the world right now, it's like humans build stuff, and maybe beavers build stuff, right? Like, you know, birds build, but like when it comes to like throwing up big, huge structures, humans. Maybe there are some cases where stuff was like Earth started shaking violently and things did get thrown up, but when you really start to dive into stuff, and honestly, just like use your eyeball, start to observe, and don't do it. Don't let that vision be driven by what you've been taught through textbooks and blah, blah, blah. Just like look, like empty slate, blank, look, and start to observe. And there's a lot to learn just through that. But anyways, that's not exactly what we're talking about today. But I just wanted to mention this because this is in the area, and I haven't really talked about this, but just this one little statistic I think is very insightful, because also a lot of what we touch on, a lot of what I talk about, a lot of these ancient buildings, remains of them that we're looking at, lots of domes, and when you read about domes, great conductors of energy, electricity, and I don't know what else, you know, like I think a lot of that information has been lost and or hidden, but domes, right? What I want to point out here is that on the Adirondack Mountains wiki page, the mountains form a roughly circular dome, about 160 miles in diameter and about 1 mile high. I'm just going to leave that at that. And here on the Herkimer Town, New York wiki page, it's saying that it was first settled around 1722, and it says that the village takes its name from the Herkimer family, a Palatine German immigrant family. And for me, this was my first time coming across Palatine, however that's said, and so I looked into that a little bit. Lots of interesting information there. It says that the German Palatines were immigrants from the Middle Rhine region of the Holy Roman Empire. And then I thought this was interesting right here. The English transported nearly 3,000 German Palatines in 10 ships to New York in 1710. Many of them were first assigned to work camps along the Hudson River. It doesn't say exactly this, but it has said exactly this in other research that I've done and talked about in previous videos. But it seems to me like you got some rulers and that take a group of people, send them over here to start to work the land and make money, so the rulers, you know, something's being done with their property, making the ruler more prosperous, and you got to have some laborers to do that. In other words, more simply put, introducing populations into newly conquered territories. And I also thought I'd mention that the English built Fort Hunter near the Lower Mohawk Castle. So castle, fort, right in this area. I mean, again, we're just seeing massive rock structures, huge forts, huge castles. That's what America used to look like. And looking at the Palatine, New York wiki page, Queen Anne of England arranged for the transport of several thousand Protestant Germans to the colony in 1710. Bro, ship the workers over. They first worked in camps run by the English. The Germans built the Palatine Church. Quick look at that. Oh, looks familiar. We've seen stuff like that before, haven't we? Amazing rock structure with big, huge glass windows. The tower on top. By the way, I'll mention this right here. I'm not sure if I said this in other videos, but I realized that when I'm researching and talking about this stuff, I'm not going out of my way to learn the terminology behind everything, like what these towers are called, what this type of structure, what this type of rock work is called. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I just think a lot of it's lies. You know, I don't, or half-truths or whatever. So instead of like trying to research all the proper architecture terms and masonry terms and use those to describe things, actually I would much rather sound stupider, but just say like, oh, this looks like what we've seen this before, massive rock structure. Oh, look how impressive this is. Oh, look at the tower or whatever it's called on this one. Or I'd just rather speak about it that way instead of trying to be like all PhD about it. The town was formed in 1788. We're talking again about Palatine, New York, which is close to Herkimer. So here's the Palatine area right here, and then Herkimer's just right there. So it's just two different little spots along this Mohawk River. So Palatine town was formed in 1788 after the American Revolutionary War. And I'm going to talk about this much more in a later video and give more of my reasons as to why, but the more I've been moving around the country, observing all of these things and all these different places and studying them through whatever information and research I can do, books, online, libraries, whatever, more and more I'm looking at stuff like, I know the story we've been told is that it was a W, but when I look at like kind of the stuff that has occurred, it looks like the American Revolutionary War, the states becoming united, was more of an L than a W. And if you're a ruler and a conqueror, it's much more difficult when things are divided for you to be able to rule them, and actually maybe even you can't. So what you want to do as quickly as possible is unite. And so you've got the United States of America, you've got the United Nations that want to unite all the world's nations into the same thing. But it's like, if everything at one point is all pretty like separated and scattered, then kind of the first stuff you got to start to do is conquer it and start to unite it, so then you can rule it all cohesively. And oh boy, was this just a like, what the heck did I just read moment. So I decided to look into the region that these Palatine Germans came from. Johann Heinrich Heinz, Heinz ketchup, yep, right there, founded Heinz Company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, emigrated from Kostalt, I don't know, I'm probably not saying that right, we'll look at that in a second, to the US. Friedrich Trump, the grandfather of Donald Trump, was also born in the same place, immigrated to New York City in 1885. I'm not going to go out of my way to try and figure out all that connection, why that is, what exactly it means. But let's just take that as a very interesting tidbit that the Queen starts shipping over people into her new territories. And these two, Heinz and Trump, and now that's a president, you know, like. And I said I'd show you this Callstot page for a second. And you have a full section on the Heinz and Trump's family. This place is the ancestral home of immigrant ancestors of both the Heinz and Trump family. The two families are also related. Whoa! In 2015, filmmaker who is from also Cassalt, same place, and also remotely related to the Trumps, produced a documentary called Kings of Cassalt. Callstat. I don't know how to say it. I'm butchering it. I apologize. But, okay, so Heinz, Trump, Queen of England, shipping people over from this place, and then everyone's related, and there's a documentary called Kings of this place, and then we got Trump as president of this new place. And if we look at some images here, like, look at this. How amazing is that? And how similar of structures we see right here in this country. But I would say more beat up. Like this dome on top of this tower, the tower on top of the tower right here. Again, apologize for my lack of terminology, but no, I don't actually apologize for it. Lots like this in this country right now just looks, it's been demolished, it's been stripped down, but this looks like it's got a little bit more left in place on it. And then when I was also doing just a little bit other research in this Callstat area, I also came across this picture, which is the Bismarck Tower. Very, very cool looking tower. And when you read the Bible and pay attention to the things that Jesus says, he talks about towers, and he talks about man building their towers. And that was way, way, way back then, right? And that's to say a few things. Is to say that I think a lot of these towers are a lot older than we're told. I think there's much more technology and machinery, etc., that was used to build them, and not only to build them, but I think once they're built, they also are and act as different technologies, let's just put it that way. And then I also read a little bit about a village, another village in Herkimer County. So this isn't the city or the town or village of Herkimer. This is Ilion, is what they call it. And check this out. Ilion is a name for the ancient city of Troy. And honestly, this stuff makes me think, like, are games being played? Is this the ancient city of Troy, but buried? And here's supposedly a look at the ancient city of Troy, and it's in complete crumbles and ruins, and a lot of it's surely buried. But if you can just imagine, it's the same type of rock building, and it's amazing, and it's ancient. But when we see any evidences the same type of stuff in these lands in America, nope, that was built in the 1850s with horses and wagons on dirt roads. Again, the whole, like, everything is just rock, 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 rock. But they never paved a road with that rock. And then here's this, which is supposedly from Troy, ancient Troy. But look, we see these same type of styles, same type of clothing, same types of people, same types of rock. Again, all over America, which is what I've been pointing out in these videos. And so the Fort Hunter that I mentioned previously, this is a drawing of what they say it looked like. And I just think this is not accurate. It was it was a massive castle fortress. And here's the Erie Canal Aqueduct at Fort Hunter, which like I touched previously on the Erie Canal and how massive and extensive it is. And then there's also Fort Herkimer, and I found this Fort Herkimer church right here, which is just another amazing rock structure with, to me it looks, you know, like this was probably a bigger tower, and it just, you know, got knocked off, stripped off or whatever. And here's another Fort Stanwix in Rome, New York, and I just wanted to show the pictures on this one because this is closer to the truth of what these forts actually were. And I talked about this in a previous video, star forts. But they're not only building just a building to live in or whatever out of rock, they're shaping entire swaths of land, and not just shaping them, but into very specific geometric designs, and with, you know, land around them, and then usually, you know, oftentimes there's water that will fill these, so it's like, it's just a really impressive piece of engineering that, I mean, come on, a horse and a shovel? And then they do this. Here's the reenactment of the wood fort. It's like, no, these aren't wood forts. In some of the pictures, we can even clearly see, no, these are rock castle, massive castle fortresses, like much closer to what we see in movies like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Like, that's more accurate than this fake wood narrative. Yeah, see this? Like, that's not, nope. This is reconstructed, but it's wood. It's to serve their narrative. Like, really, they're going to be able to shape all this earth into those geometric designs, and everything else around is all, you know, there's so many other structures proving evidence of just everything being all rock. But so they shape all this land, they cut out all this land into geometric designs, but then they just build everything with wood, like woods protecting them from these enemies that are coming to attack them. Wood walls. You're gonna build a star fort, shape the earth like that, and then use wood walls. Look at some other old pictures of some old buildings in Ilion, New York, where we can see, like I've shown in other videos, all the way across the United States of America country, just massive rock buildings, just truly massive, like way too big for what was needed according to the narrative we've been told at that time, and how quickly and how, like, they're doing this stuff, but also log cabins. So it's like, no. And this was supposedly, by the way, just a typewriter building. This is an army of typists. Look, if this isn't telling, guys, I mean, the story of the typewriter. All right, so here we've got, let's call it a Greek goddess, right? And then look closely at the type of architecture and buildings that are depicted right here. And the goddess standing above it, offering us a typewriter, offering us new technologies. I mean, but this, like, I think that's it, guys. You want to know what these cities, these castle kingdoms looked like in their original state? That, dating way back to the time period of the Greeks and the Romans and the Bible. It's interesting that it's Remington typewriter, because Remington also started manufacturing weapons. And then they call this one the plants of Remington Cash Register and Remington Arms Co. So this is like the Remington plant, where it's like, just massive rock structures. And then here's a look at that typewriter factory sitting right on the Erie Canal. Look how beautiful that Erie Canal is. Here's another look at it. That's bonkers. Like, that's really crazy. Here's a look at a couple of the churches. Very impressive rock structures. How you moving that weight? How you lifting that weight? Why you building cabins? Now zombies, let's take a look at some of the footage and pictures I took when I passed through Herkimer. So this was the first one I stopped at, and geez, this thing just blew my mind. Real quick, what's your guess? What is it? Why'd they build it? It's abandoned now, it's not in use. So that's just something that's super ridiculous. Here's a leftover of a castle, and really an elementary school, come on. But I like this one, I had so much fun looking at this building. Super, super cool. And in the same kind of style as the Genesee College buildings that we saw. And this mom and her son walked by, and the son wanted to be in a picture. So I was like, bet, it's great. It would help show the size, the scale of it and everything. And so shout outs to this little guy and his mother and their other sibling there. Here's just a little peek inside of it. Just absolutely destroyed. What a shame, such an amazing buildings in such ruins, but I guess that's kind of our entire past, right? So there's more videos if you want. I didn't go inside. I didn't really care to go walk through all that crap, to be honest, but I think there's some videos and other pictures online of some other people who have gone exploring inside of there if you're interested in seeing more of the inside. Here's around the side of it. Just extremely impressive. You know, we got what looks like close to buried windows into the ground. Here's another peek inside. Just absolutely destroyed in there, but you can see the whole thing's, it's all rock. And I mean, I've said it before, but we build out of lumber. We build with twigs, and even that is extremely expensive for us. So how did this stuff get built in a time period 1800s, 1930, when we weren't as advanced as we are now? It's because we've been moving backwards, not advancing. And the proof is here in the architecture. So here's moving around to the back side of the building now. And it's just a beast of a building, guys. For an elementary school, and it's been closed since the 1980s, they said. And then there's wood. That's wood. That's what we build. Here's what a different civilization built. Not a civilization just 100 years ago. Older. And then just right down the street, we've got another strong standing rock church with a tower. And just wow, what an impressive, huge window. And there we've got the municipal hall, the little dome tower on it. And if we look across the street here from the municipal hall, just everything brick. Perfectly stacked brick. Amazing. Look how tall these windows and stories are. I love these buildings so much. Like, and look, it's definitely beat up, but still so strong and sturdy standing right there. Like it just needs to be shined up a little bit is all. But the actual sturdiness and strength of the building, the structure, perfect. So strong. Wise man built his house out of rock. Because when the rains and the winds and the floods and the storms come, it stays standing. Twigs and cabins get washed away. And anciently, they built out of rock. No. And this whole, I mean, this is really impressive brick architecture right here. This whole little, this is like half a block right here. And like what I talked about in Ohio, I didn't go explore this hill over here, but I would imagine that hill with the shrubs, the trees growing on it, that was a wall that protected these buildings. And look at this thing. I mean, post office. Yeah, post office. And then here's a look at I believe this is a different church, just another one that's sitting right here as well. Just another perfectly stacked, super strong, huge brick structure. And the date on this church they give right there is 1873. But look, you can clearly tell that whatever was on top of that little piece of cement got stripped off and then something got carved into it, which now says 1873. And if we look at it from the side here, so we've got these big tall windows right here, and look at the arch. You know, it's got the brick arch with that piece of cement right there in the middle, and then we see the exact same thing down here, but oh no, this one's a shorter window and it's got this little piece of foundation. And I think this is literally what we see at the ground right here is actually this length of a window if we saw the whole thing, and then probably more levels exactly like that underneath, just all buried. And I think a lot of these were already sitting here very buried. New conquerors laid claim, turned them and started, you know, what are you gonna call all, like, when they're everywhere, what are you gonna call them? You got to come up with something for them. Churches, church, 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 church. Elementary school, post office. And by the way, a lot of these churches that we're talking about here are foreign owned by that same English queen, empire, ruler, conquer ship that sent people over here to start working. Look at how that, yeah, what? That's so crazy. Look at this thing. Such a cool building. Like, all of these are so beyond impressive, especially for the time period. Beyond impressive for now. The problem is we look at this stuff and it looks old, and we're so like, we think new is always the best and stuff because it's, you know, there's not a blemish on it. And there's lots of blemishes on this stuff. But our new stuff, a little bit of rain, a little bit of flood, it's just gone. It literally gets washed away. This will not get washed away. And it hasn't. It's been sitting here for a long, long time. And it's still in great shape. Just needs a little shine, but man, look at this thing. Then we've got this telegram building, which again, that's a new sign that's been put onto this very old brick building, and that's all been stripped off, whatever was originally there. And then here's another little stretch of street that I found with just very cool old brick, so much perfectly stacked brick, heavy brick durable buildings here. And yeah, just a couple more very impressive buildings there. Towers, and both of these buildings right here, truly amazing. Very impressive. And I saw like this red one over here. I saw one like that, I believe it was Nebraska. No, Kansas. It was in Kansas that I saw one of those. And then this rock tower. Gosh, it's so impressive. Look at that. This was a gel. It's got the date of 1834 on it. And you can see on the gel right here, yeah, I wanted to point out that window. That's the exact same shape and style, and this building is built very similarly to the Kirtland, Ohio temple that I mentioned in the Kirtland, Ohio video that I made. Painted this one blue, but just, again, another just absolutely insane building. The tower, the huge windows, the perfectly angled triangle right here. And then this right here was an old, the old Herkimer Masonic Lodge. Very cool brick building, abandoned, just sitting there in ruins. And it's just also right here on the same street, all this historical society. If you can get over how we've been trained that, you know, only new is cool. If things look a little bit old, then oh no, like, that's crap. These are not crap. These are some of the most amazing architectural buildings that are still sitting around. In many cases, better than what we can build right now. Here's the Historical Society building. Look at the detail in that rock right there. This face right here. See, like, that's, when I say something like that middle section there, it shows that piece of cement and it looks like something's been stripped off. Strip that off and I bet you're left with just a little slice of gray cement right there. And I'm not saying like that exact same face was on all of these buildings, but that type of stuff. But it's just been stripped and stripped and stripped and stripped. And like right here, in this one you can see, I mean, the fruit, the grapes on the vine and everything, but then like the little animal down on the bottom left. Very intricate. Maybe it kind of looks like a bird right there in the middle to me. And so perfect. Like, all this is like just perfect. So you're gonna say they did it all by hand? Come on. And that historical building sits right next to this maroon one, which is a police building. And yeah, there's a little connection between them. That's a brick one. So honestly, I think, again, we're just looking at the tops of a much bigger structure and possibly all connected. Like, look, if we're really looking at really tall castles here, and water and mud has come up and then stopped, and now there's just some stuff poking up, like, our roads, like in between our buildings, the roads that we're on could just be like the walkways of the tops of these really old castles. And there's also this blue brick church, and they've painted it blue, but you can see the rock that's underneath it there, with just massively tall windows, and connected to this piece back here, which is interesting. You know, I would imagine this front piece was probably more this color, but they just painted it blue. I don't know though. This is it's kind of a weird thing we're looking at right there. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. And down here, look, you can see the buried window, the arch over it. Like, when I see the arch in the window and it's just like the tippity top, it's like, we've seen over and over and over again the arch with super long, tall windows. And so when we see that going straight into the ground, that's what that is.